faculty and staff. We are so glad for this opportunity today. University of Houston has been on a momentous ride. We have done a lot of different things, but I think our potential and aspirations both are still ahead of us. Our next goal is to be a top 50 public university in the nation. However, we cannot achieve this without the support and leadership from everybody. But to begin with, we are a state university, and this is the state leadership that makes it happen. We are in this building. Without this building, we would not have had the research for which we are here today. But among state leadership, I really do want to point out, Governor, how absolutely incredibly supportive you have been, and not just of University of Houston, but higher education in general. During my 15 years here, I just cannot think of any other governor in any other state who has done as much for higher education as you have, and for sure for University of Houston, you have been an incredibly supportive force for us, always aspiring along with us, always dreaming along with us what's next for us. So it is such a honor to have you here today. But you know, our success could not be possible without the success of our researchers. Researchers and faculty are the ones who make the University of Houston what it is today. Today we are highlighting the research of two of our professors. Dr. Therese Costin is a professor of psychology and director of the Developmental, Cognitive, and Behavioral Neuroscience program and senior author of the research that we will be discussing here today. And Dr. Colin Hale is research associate professor of psychology and the Texas Institute for Measurement, Evaluation, and Statistics, known as TIMES, and a founding member of the UH Drug Discovery Institute. Dr. Hale leads an extensive team of researchers who have made a breakthrough discovery. It could have major implications for the nation's opioid epidemic. I'd like to welcome Dr. Hale at this point to tell us about this groundbreaking discovery. Dr. Hale.
President, Chairman, and Governor, can't express how grateful we are for your support in our research, and that research includes a new vaccine that we have developed. As we know, there is a major problem with opioids in this country, overdose and opioid use disorder. Present treatments are not adequate, so we need a different strategy, a different way of addressing this problem. And that different way includes our vaccine. And this vaccine is different from other vaccines in where you get your vaccine and you develop antibodies against a bug like a virus or a bacteria. You get our vaccine, you develop antibodies against fentanyl. These antibodies bind to fentanyl if it is consumed and prevent it from getting into the brain, where it may trigger euphoric centers or trigger respiratory depression and opioid overdose death. We feel that this, in combination with present treatments, will be a game changer. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Hale. At this point, I'd like to introduce somebody who needs absolutely no introduction, and that is our Chairman, Tillman Fertitta. I have been working with Chairman now for 14 of my 15 years, and I can tell you he's one person who has even higher ambitions for the university, and his support and his time and his wisdom has been they have been invaluable for all of us here in terms of our academics, in terms of our athletics, in terms of College of Medicine, and most definitely in terms of our research. So with that, I turn it over to you, Chairman Fertitta.
Thank you so much, Chancellor. It's great to have great leadership at a university. It makes you look good. So we had her vision for the medical school that we worked on with the state for the last, 6-7 years, and thank goodness for our great leadership in the state of Texas and the whole legislature that we were able to accomplish the medical school and finally open it this year. So we're so excited, and thank you again for that, Governor. For the governor to come down here from the state of the city of Austin just to realize and show the importance of what has been accomplished here at the University of Houston. But fentanyl is a huge problem in this country. Everybody, for some reason, so many politicians run away from it. And I think you, Governor, once again, you're showing your leadership, which you've shown to us for many years, to come down here and recognize what has been accomplished here at the University of Houston. And we truly appreciate you doing that for us. But once again, to helping us to attack this horrible, horrible drug that has touched probably everybody in this room we were talking about earlier, that knows somebody that has lost a family member or a friend to fentanyl. And so we appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. Well, thank you to Tillman and to Renew. Thank you for your leadership here. It's been fabulous. What you've been able to achieve is remarkable. For one, it's always great to be on the campus on a day when the University of Houston ranks #1 in the United States. And so congratulations to the Cougars and their basketball team. Another is, I think the last time that I was on this campus was for the unveiling of the medical school. And so it seems like every time I come here, there's something new, big, that's being unveiled by the University of Houston. And today is big in a different way. Today actually connects to my very first State of the State address in 2015 during my first year as governor. During that address, I talked about my lament that Texas lagged behind other states in the United States for Tier 1 research universities. And I promised that during my service as governor, we would at least double the number of Tier 1 universities. Now, at that time, the University of Houston was already a Tier 1 research university. But since that time, Texas has done more than just double the number of Tier 1 research universities. Texas now ranks #1 in the United States for the most Tier 1 research universities in the entire country. What that means is this: Texas is the knowledge capital of the United States. Texas is the research and innovation capital of the United States. And today we celebrate one of those innovations. This happens to be a healthcare innovation that's going to be transformative in saving lives. And this is exactly one of the reasons why we invest in our universities the way that Renew Couture was talking about. It's extraordinarily important for us to educate our kids and make sure that they're going to leave college more educated. At the same time, in addition to providing for a highly skilled workforce, we must be involved in research projects just like this research project. We have these universities now that have the capability of researching an idea, turning it into a reality that will save lives. And so I want to join in thanking Dr. Costin as well as Dr. Hale and all the researchers who were involved in this process. This was and remains a team project, a team effort. And they all know that they were members of a team. They could not have done it without that team. And I'm proud of the entire team at the University of Houston and others that they worked with. Because this is going to address what's turned out to be one of the most serious, lethal problems we have in our country. Just a few numbers. Quite literally, fentanyl is killing Texans. Over the past year, about 1,400 Texans lost their lives because of fentanyl. It's been reported in Harris County, at least one person loses their life a day because of fentanyl. Fentanyl is now the #1 killer in America of people between the ages of 18 and 45. The DEA administrator said that fentanyl is the single deadliest drug threat our nation has ever encountered. And according to the CDC, during the 1 year from February 2021 to February 2022, more than 75,000 Americans died from fentanyl-related overdoses. This is an extraordinarily deadly problem. But the University of Houston's new development can be a game changer as it concerns fentanyl deaths. The way that this is most often encountered these days in Texas and across the country is through drugs that look like ordinary drugs. It could be painkillers, it could be stimulants, it could be anti-anxiety drugs, whatever the case may be. But drugs that are manufactured in Mexico and have laced onto them fentanyl, so that someone buys a drug, takes that drug, and it turns out to be a one-pill kill. All it takes is one pill. 2 milligrams of fentanyl is a deadly dose. And drug cartels in Mexico are lacing fentanyl onto what appears to be other drugs and killing Americans right and left. And to show you the magnitude of the problem that we are encountering, just the Texas Department of Public Safety alone has seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the entire United States of America. The fentanyl coming across our border has unleashed a weapon of mass destruction that we as a society and as a state have to step up and deal with. And that's what we've already begun. Last session, I signed a new law to increase criminal penalties for the making or distribution of fentanyl in the state of Texas. Going into this next session, there's far more that we must do. I'm proposing new laws that will classify fentanyl as a poison or as a poisoning rather than an overdose. And one thing that will do is it will also allow us to turn a fentanyl poisoning into a far more serious crime. I want it to be categorized as murder for someone to knowingly provide a fentanyl-laced pill to someone who ingests it and dies. And also, we want to help others deal with the consequences of exposure to fentanyl. There is something that can be taken immediately after exposure to fentanyl, whether it be through ingestion or some other way, and that's Narcan. And I want to make sure that Narcan is readily available to multiple locations across the entire state to make sure that people will be able to access it quickly if they see somebody that is seizing because of exposure to fentanyl. We also need to legalize fentanyl test strips in the state of Texas so that people will be able to test drugs at home to know whether or not it might be laced with fentanyl. All of these strategies together can save hundreds, if not thousands of lives just in the state of Texas on an annual basis alone. And at the same time, it is imperative for the Biden administration to step up its game of what it's doing at the border to make sure that they do everything possible to stop this deadly drug from coming across our border, coming into our state, and then going across America. Political leaders at every level need to understand that every life in our country is at risk if we don't step up our game and do more to address the deadly fentanyl. Well, once again, I want to thank the University of Houston, its leadership, and their researchers for doing their part from the scientific perspective to come up with an innovative development of a vaccine for fentanyl that truly will save lives. And so I wanted to recognize the University of Houston for its pivotal role in America, Kennedy, in the world, for being one of the international leaders to address what the federal administration itself has said is the deadliest drug we've ever had in our country. So with that, we'll take a few questions.
So is there anything you or the lawmakers can do in the coming session to support this research specifically or research like it?
100%. And that's one thing that Renu Couture was talking about, and I'll elaborate on, and as we have been providing research dollars to our universities to give them the capability of expanding research among a broad spectrum of subject areas. We will continue that effort because not only do I want Texas to be the #1 state for the most Tier 1 research universities, I want us to advance even further. We are the home of innovation, and I want to make sure Texas accelerates that process because the changes America needs will be made right here in Texas.
Governor, yesterday, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, in discussing the $27 to $30 billion surplus, said he would favor taking part of that surplus and creating a fund, an endowment for the universities that do not benefit from the permanent university fund. I believe UH would be a benefactor of that. Would you favor such an endowment?
So this is something that I've openly talked about and even brought up last session, and that was a proposed endowment for the University of Houston of $1 billion. And that's something that I want to see come to fruition. That would catapult the University of Houston by almost doubling, close to doubling, its endowment, and catapult it into the top tier of universities in the United States.
So I take it you favor
100%. Go ahead.
Who would benefit from this vaccine? Who would it be given to? Why would it be given to them instead of just using Narcan?
Sure. I'll endeavor to answer the question, and then I'll let Dr. Hale add to it. This will benefit multiple people, let's say multiple categories of people, as well as even animals. There are people who are addicted to opioids, who will reach out and try to take either opioids or, let's say, increase the amount of opioids that they take that may have fentanyl laced onto it. And so it turns into something deadly for them, where they could take this vaccine and know that they would be protected from immediate death by taking something that has fentanyl on it. Law enforcement officers are exposed to fentanyl. I'm aware of at least 2, there's probably far more than that, of law enforcement officers who were exposed and they were seizing up. And they fortunately had quick access to Narcan, and it saved their lives. Not every police officer or law enforcement officer who's exposed to these drugs may have that. They could take the vaccine and know they're protected from it. Another innovation that Dr. Hale was talking about is, law enforcement uses drug sniffing dogs. If a dog sniffs fentanyl and inhales it, that dog could probably die. And so they also will be working on ways to see if this is a treatment that could be provided to drug-sniffing dogs or other potential animals that may be needed for law enforcement purposes or other purposes. That said, I'll turn it over to the professionals and let them answer the question.
Excellent job, Governor, by the way. Excellent job. I would add that we see the vaccine as adjunct treatment for those that want to quit. For example, those that are in rehabilitation, they'll most likely be put on a maintenance therapy that we know 80% plus of this patient population does relapse. The compliance, medication compliance is very poor in this population. We see our vaccine as a relapse prevention agent that they would get with their maintenance therapy. So when, and not if, when they relapse, they will be protected. The fentanyl that they consume will be held in the blood and then eventually eliminated from the body, allowing them time to get back on the wagon to sobriety.
So is this vaccine is all opioids or just that?
It is specific to fentanyl and fentanyl derivatives. So that means that the antibodies will bind to fentanyl, sufentanil, carfentanil, alfentanil, and others, but not other opioids. So that means, and we showed this in our latest publication, that the antibodies do not bind to morphine and other opioids, allowing individuals that need, for example, surgery or pain, to address pain, they would have other options.
So y'all can ask some more questions. However, I'm going to ask a question because I want y'all to know about something. He mentioned carfentanil, and if you're like me, you had no idea what that was. I learned what it was in our meeting right before coming out of here. As much as I'm scared about fentanyl, what he told us about carfentanil makes me even more scared. So would you please tell them what carfentanil is?
Carfentanil is about 100 times more potent than fentanyl itself, and it does have a use in veterinary medicine. It's used to anesthetize large animals like elephants and rhinos, and it is extremely potent. And around 2 milligrams, depending on the weight of the individual, around 2 milligrams of fentanyl can kill an individual. Grains of carfentanil can kill an individual.
And now it too is coming across the border. Other questions? Go ahead.
I know you said that this is aimed at relapse prevention, but is it something that will eventually be readily available? Like you mentioned, it's no necessary to Narcan being available across the state. Is this something that we hope to have available across the state? And if so, what would
Well, I'll answer that a little bit, and then let the doctor also. And so, the way I envision it is that it would be available upon prescription to someone who would need it. And so, you would first need a prescription for it. But anybody who takes this is not going to. It's intended, as the doctor was explaining, it's intended to be an assistive aid to those who may be addicts, to help them reduce their addiction. And it's intended to be a protective device to people who are not addicts, who may be otherwise exposed to it.
Yes.
What, he was going to add a bit more to that.
So the question is, when will the vaccine be available? Well, we are manufacturing clinical grade vaccine right now, and then the next step is to do toxicology testing that's required for the FDA. The next step is to apply for an IND from the FDA so that we can initiate phase 1 clinical trials. And because our vaccine, 2 components of our vaccine have already been in humans. One component is in 2 vaccines that are already on the market. So we feel we have an advantage when it comes to our application to the FDA, because these components have been shown to be effective and safe. Not yet.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Governor, do you expect any pushback as far as legalizing the test strips?
So, in the past, as in like last session and before, there was pushback, including from myself. I was not in favor of it last session. But in the past 2 years, fentanyl has expanded so dramatically. So many lives have been lost, people innocently, that I think there's a better understanding that lives are at risk of people who just anybody, anytime, any way, any day, one pill can kill them. And if you listen to the mothers and parents of these families who've lost a loved one, there's going to be a movement across the state to make sure that we do everything that we can to protect people from dying from fentanyl. And I think the test strips will be one of those ways.
Last question?
I'll ask one. You have one, sir? Oh, I just wanted to say that
I'll come back to you. He's not a reporter, but but maybe the best question.
I was saying that, for Dr. Hill to move forward, we would need to source some support for carrying out this research program. So any commitment to his lab and to his...
Thank you very much for saying that.
Other researchers are...
Right.
Yeah.
Brothers.
See our
That's right.
perspectives.
And we want to thank you for what you do. But what I can tell you is that there's no more aggressive or effective team at achieving goals like that than what you have up here with Tillman Fertitta and Renew Couture.
Governor, we've heard from Speaker Phelan and his thoughts about the surplus. We've heard from Lieutenant Governor Patrick. They vary in terms of the treatment or the rebate potential for property tax relief. Are you sticking with your hope to give at least half of that back in tax relief? Yesterday, Lieutenant Governor Patrick suggested raising the homestead exemption from its current level of 40 to 60. Do you like that idea?
Well, so more than any other candidate, I campaign prolifically and daily on saying that we would use at least half of the surplus to give back to the people whose money it is in the first place. It's the taxpayers' money, and use that money to reduce their property taxes. People in Texas are fed up with high property taxes, and we need to step up and do something about it. And the most prolific way we can do something about it is by using at least half of our surplus to reduce property taxes. We'll need to get in the session to figure out which strategy is the best strategy to use, but the people who deserve that money are the taxpayers of the state of Texas.
Great, thanks, y'all.
Oh, wait 1 second. Because this is such a significant day, I wanted to mark it with an official declaration from the Office of the Governor. I'll provide details in here, Renew, for you all, to recognize the University of Houston for its tremendous success in this remarkable day that your research has gone to achieve. Congratulations, Renew.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you all, and Governor, thank you again for realizing what an issue we have here and coming down and spending the afternoon with us. We truly appreciate it. Dr. Hale, thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Proclamation and the governor.
Governor, let's turn around and take a picture.